I want to share with you two major mistakes that I made while both struggling with an active substance use disorder to nicotine and cannabis, and then made again while I was trying to stop using nicotine and cannabis products. Mistakes that I've seen literally hundreds of individuals make who are struggling with a substance use disorder that hopefully you will avoid after watching today's video. Now, real quick, I put a link in the video description to our one-on-one addiction exit protocol, which uses expedited perception realignment techniques combined with first principle thinking for high performance individuals like entrepreneurs, business owners, medical professionals, attorneys, people who work in finance or real estate, including high performance parents who might be struggling with a teen or young adult at home who has a substance use disorder, who are ready to make substance use a thing of the past, never to be concerned about again. So if you want to learn more about that and that sounds like you, be sure to check out that link in the video description. So mistake number one that I made was during active substance use. I would always find myself comparing my relationship with the drug to other people's experiences with that substance. I'll give you an example. As a medical professional, I would often find myself out at a dinner. There'd be other doctors there, other physicians, and normally there'd usually be some attorneys and things like that. And I would look around the dinner and I would see someone drinking a glass of wine. I would see someone outside vaping. I would see someone, doing one of these substance use related activities. And I would always think to myself, well, that person is successful, and I put successful in air quotes for a reason, which I'll explain in a moment. And I would then think to myself, they look like they're having fun. It doesn't look like it's negatively impacting them. And I would come to the conclusion that that substance was going to work out the same for me. Despite having a long history of repeated substance use and several negative outcomes from my decision to continue using those substances, I was constantly comparing myself to other people who either A, weren't having problems with the substance, or B, who weren't telling me the full story about their relationship with that drug, because all I was seeing was their superficial interaction with it. Someone having a good time at dinner, having a drink. Someone having a good time with their friends, having a smoke of weed. Someone standing outside hitting their vape. But on the outside, that person looks wealthy, they look really fit, they look really put together. And I constantly kept saying to myself, other people seem to be successful in active substance use. Why can't I accomplish the same thing? Despite the fact that consuming nicotine and cannabis constantly was killing my motivation, killing my energy, killing my physical health, damaging my relationships, ultimately damaging my finances. I just couldn't stop comparing myself to people that I thought I strived to be like. Now, that was mistake number one, and that kind of comes with a little bonus mistake that I'm going to give you before mistake number two. Comparing myself to other people and their current relationship with active substance use. In fact, sometimes I would even go out of my way to look for celebrities or other high performance individuals who were using substances to continually justify my own substance use disorder that I had developed. That was a major, major problem. And another flaw that I had in this was I was looking at these individuals saying, well, they're successful, they make a lot of money, it seems like they're really healthy, but the reality is most people you're only getting to know, especially in those social circumstances, on a very superficial level. You're only seeing the surface of what's actually going on. And I can say that confidently now after 7 years of coaching extremely successful individuals when it comes to helping them overcome substance use disorders. Little do you know that that individual has a major problem with their marriage related to their drinking, a major problem with their business related to their cannabis consumption and procrastination and lack of motivation that results, a major problem with their relationship with their kids. Because of that, they're constantly sneaking away to smoke cigarettes or hit their vape and they don't want their kids to see. How you define success matters, and your definition of successful should not be based on the superficial perception of the people that you see around you. Because what type of success matters to you, either A, may not matter to them, or might be a disaster behind closed doors in their life. So that's mistake number one, comparing your active substance use to someone else's decision and relationship with those drugs, alcohol, cannabis, nicotine, cigarettes, whatever it is. Now, mistake number two was I did the exact same thing again when I was trying to quit using substances. I was getting all this information from other people who had quit using nicotine, quit vaping, quit smoking cigarettes, quit using cannabis, and I would get one of two feedback loops. Feedback loop number one would be the person would tell me that it was the hardest thing they ever did in their life, that they struggled endlessly with withdrawal symptoms. And if you find yourself in rehabs or 12-step programs, you're going to hear people saying, I still crave the drug every day, even though I've been sober for 30 years. And what this did to me was I started to adopt their experience as my own. They started to instill a system of beliefs into my head, and I adopted those beliefs, and those beliefs eventually started becoming my own reality when I was starting to quit using nicotine and cannabis products. And this was a major, major problem that hopefully you will avoid finding yourself in, because the reality is my recovery and becoming fully recovered with no desire to ever use those substances again was very different from that person's. Yet I was comparing my journey very closely to someone else's. And many times when I would go to quit, I would seek support from those areas, those groups, those things. And what would actually wind up happening is I would wind up with a level of fear, which turns out to be nothing more than false expectations appearing real about quitting. Because I would hear about someone who's still struggling with cravings 20 years later, and I would be like, I don't want that. I would hear about someone's horrible physical withdrawal symptoms, and I would think to myself, I don't want to go through that process. And that actually prevented me from even attempting to stop for way, way, way longer than I had to postpone making that decision to better my quality of life. It was so unnecessary. And it was happening because I was comparing my experience, even though I hadn't yet lived it, to other people's. And that created a lot of fear. It created a lot of anxiety. It created a lot of very false expectations in sobriety and recovery for myself. And ultimately, it wound up keeping me stuck in that loop of ongoing substance use. Now, on the flip side, because I was struggling at one point with psychosis, with a condition called Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome, I would hear about other people, or I'd read through Reddit forums or things like that, or watch videos online, who had quit, and the process was super easy for them. They're like, yep, I just put cigarettes down one day and I was done. I just quit smoking weed one day and I never thought about it again. And I would then think, wow, quitting is going to be like the easiest thing in the world. I would go at it, immediately try stopping cannabis, nicotine, adult media content, and stimulants all at once, and I would just find that it was the most challenging thing in the world. I'd be like, this feels almost impossible. And then I would wind up falling for the mindset of, hey, Joe or Mary Jane quit so easily. Why am I different? Why am I struggling so much? I must be unique. Their circumstances must definitely not apply to mine because they can't at all relate to what I'm experiencing, what I'm going through. I must be one in a million. The person who is incapable of making a change easily like everyone else has. I can't tell you how many people I've had come through our program who have gone through maybe Alan Carr's Easy Way to Quit Smoking, Alan Carr's Easy Way to Quit Vaping, which, by the way, excellent program, excellent books if you haven't read them, but where the experience for them was not, in fact, easy, and then they wind up thinking to themselves, gosh, I read Alan Carr's book 10 times and I haven't stopped. Gosh, I've been to so many therapy sessions. I've been through rehabs. I've been through inpatient and outpatient programs, and it's still not working for me. And then you wind up finding yourself in this unique thought process that you're like some unicorn who's incapable of making change. And the more failed attempts you have, the more you wind up just reinforcing the belief that you are different, that you are incapable of making change. And I'm not taking away from the uniqueness of your situation, your environment, or your circumstances, but I am telling you that that is a major mindset flaw, and it's a major mistake that I made over and over and over again, and it was such an unnecessary mistake. So by thinking this was going to be super easy, I didn't realize the amount of, to some extent, limited willpower, certainly discipline, motivation, grit, and commitment that this change was going to require, and I would then fail short on becoming sober and successfully quitting nicotine and cannabis products. Those are the two big mistakes that I would tell you to avoid. Stop comparing your active substance use to other people's decision to consume alcohol, cannabis, nicotine, or whatever it is. Because chances are your relationship with the drug and the side effects and consequences of that drug consumption that you're experiencing are likely very different from theirs, or they probably are similar and you're just not seeing what's going on behind closed doors in that person's life. And I'm telling you, I've seen the behind closed doors in thousands of people's lives that I've effectively been able to help quit inside our one-on-one addiction exit protocol. I can tell you with confidence, things are not always as they appear. Mistake number 2, don't compare yourself to others while you are on your own unique and individualized quitting journey, because your experience could wind up looking dramatically different from someone else's. And the last thing you want to do is install a false belief system or a false series of expectations into your personal experience, because it's either going to make quitting 1,000 times harder, or like I've seen with so many people before, it's going to prevent you from even trying to stop in the first place. Now again, if you're a high performance individual, you're a CEO, an entrepreneur, you work in real estate, finance, you're a medical professional, you're a judge, an attorney, anything like that, I want you to check out the link in the video description, because I have a private, flexible, one-on-one coaching program that was designed specifically for you and your needs. I put that link right below. Until next time.